Hello, welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. I'm your host, Chris Thompson, and welcome to another episode. Okay, so the last episode I was kind of introducing you to ceremonial magic, not doing much more than talking about it and showing you books. And this one I'm going to show you another book. Okay, so I'm trying to get into tarot. I'm trying to really get into it, and I'm reading this book right here. It's the Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot by Lon Milo Du Quette, and this book is amazing. And so you'll want a version, one version or another of the Thoth Tarot, and I've got this one, the Aleister Crowley Tarot deck, and it's, from what I've seen of the original drawings, I like the art on this one so much better. They're not exactly the same laid out as the original cards, but they're close enough to work with this book. And it's more than just I'm starting to learn that it's more of a tool, more of a universal tool, and it's not just for what do you call it? I don't want to call it fortune telling, because that's not what it really is. But you know me, I always forget the word. So what was my point? Okay, so there's divination, and I'm still not anywhere near where I really understand using them for divination, because one thing you got to understand is these cards, they have a lot of information in them, and it's really hard to, like, what I'm not understanding. It's not simple yes and no answers. It's not like, am I going to go here, blah blah blah. If you want to use something like that, then you're probably better off using something like runestones or something, because they're simple answers. This is complex, but also I've started learning that it's a tool to be used, and it's actually, tarot can be used, it can be an entire system of magic within itself. So, like, some of the things you can use it for is like a good one, and that's what I think you need to do first, is path working. Okay, what path working is let me see, I think it might have a diagram in here. There's something called the Tree of Life diagram. I don't know, the light's kind of blinding it. Okay, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. And so it's this diagram with these 10 spheres. That's right, they're the spherote. Spherote means spheres. And each of those spheres is a different aspect of your personality, of your being. And so, like, I don't know. Let me see if I can get the light off it again so I can get you a better look at this diagram, because unless you're familiar with it. So, see there's paths between those spheres. So those are the paths that we're working with, hence path working. Now the spherote themselves are considered paths, and those you would use the ace through the 10 of the 4, what do they call them? I'm not good at remembering words. I've got the concepts, but it's trying to get them from here to there. So basically there's the suits. Okay, so you got the 4 suits. Well, those suits, you would use each of those suits you would go through each of those suits, ace through 10, because the ace is 1, to get each one of to get through those spheres, and you do it for each of the elements, because each suit represents the elements. And then you also have what they call the major arcana. Okay, so the major arcana are the trump cards that they added later. Now the major arcana, they are the paths, the actual paths that you see that you're going through, even though the other ones are considered paths too. So, and those ones are the big ones on what the changes they bring about, and the things you learn about yourself from this. So it's not just for divination, it's for a lot of things, and we're learning a lot of things on here, because these cards, they represent a lot of stuff. They've been, even though, yeah, you could argue, yeah, they were probably made originally as a card game, but I think after they added the major arcana, that kind of changed it into, you could still do that, but it made it more of a tool, and people just see it for fortune telling, but it's much, much more than that. Like, this shows you, this one, haven't really gotten this far yet, but it shows you the cards and how they line up with the zodiac. So there's a lot of whatchamacallit, zodiac, what do they call it? Astrology. So there's a lot of astrology connected to it, to the tarot, and there's a lot of Kabbalistic stuff connected to the tarot, and that is actually thanks to another magician who's pretty much like the modern guy who really, there's a lot of guys who are responsible for ceremonial magic becoming what it is, but this other guy, what is his name? Let me look at a book real quick because I don't remember everything. Eliphas Levi. Okay, so Eliphas Levi, he was the guy that saw more things in the tarot than they had been used for, and he connected the tarot to the Kabbalah, and he was okay. Eliphas Levi was a Catholic priest, and he was a Catholic priest, but he was also very interested in the occult, and the occult, his interest in the occult is eventually what got him kicked out of the church. But he always thought of himself as a Catholic and a Christian, yet he did magic. But if you go back into the history of magic, you're going to find out that a lot of the biggest people, especially in ceremonial magic, because there are people in the higher classes, the upper class, like priests and whatever, professors, are going to be more educated people than, say, the, what do they call it, what they would call witches, but they used to call them something else. They were healers, and they would call it cunning folk. So the cunning folk were uneducated people who did more of the stuff of what we would consider to be witchcraft, which would be like mixing up herbs and all that stuff, which I'm not really into. Like I do some stuff like mixing different incenses together to make specific incenses and oils, but that's about it, all I go into it. And one thing I do is that I really do that has to do with mixing different things together to make something. It's an oil, and they call it abramalium oil, but it's really a formula that was taken from the Holy Bible. And don't get turned off just because there's some biblical stuff, because like I said, there was a lot of very pious religious people involved in it. So you got to think, but basically, so there's so many things that you can do with these cards, and like I said, there's a lot of information in those cards, and it's in Lon Milo Du Quette. Man, this guy is, I'm going to have to get some more of his books at some point, because this guy is really good at taking stuff, especially with the Crowley stuff. And don't get scared because of Crowley. A lot of the stuff they said about him wasn't real, wasn't true, and some of it was. But he really understands the Crowley stuff. So a lot of the Golden Dawn stuff through Crowley this guy is probably Lon Milo Du Quette, when it comes to, like, really, if you want to get into some of the Golden Dawn stuff, because, you know, some of the books, like the Black Brick that they call it, which is it's Golden Dawn, and it's it's basically this, the dude's notes from the Golden Dawn, and that's another guy. His name is Israel Regardie. So Israel Regardie basically published a book called The Golden Dawn, which we call the Big Black Brick because it's a big, heavy-ass book. And so, and it's good for reference, but I mean, a lot of that stuff is hard to get through to, and Lon Milo Du Quette is really good at taking the more complicated stuff, because, like, Damien Eccles, he's really good for, like, really beginning, but if you're trying to get into stuff that's complicated, or, like, if you're having trouble figuring out the tarot, you should get this book and some kind of version of the Thoth deck, because it's different, the symbology is different, and it's set up differently, and this book is meant specifically for that deck. You could probably use the normal ones, but my thing for you is if you're gonna get some book on the tarot, you should probably get the specific type of tarot cards that are made for that. There's a lot of stuff on the Rider-Waite deck, and so and this is a little different because this is kind of more, well, Crowley stuff is more taking some of the stuff from the Golden Dawn and some of his stuff from his Thelema religion and putting those symbols into it. So that's why that's good with that one. So I mean, like I said, it's a different system. It's a system within itself, the tarot. And you can, like in that Damien Eccles book and the last one that I showed you, there's angels for the tarot, each tarot, and so you can use them to summon angels. And then I got this little thing, and I love these. I usually only use these for invoking spirits of the Shemhamepharash. These are angel cards. This is a set of angelic cards, and it's a real tarot deck, but 72 of those 78 cards, 78 cards are specifically connected to each card to one of the 72 angels of the Shemhamepharash. And these guys, you can invoke these to help you with different things and stuff. And yeah, that one's a little creepy, he's holding a head, but these are really well done. And I wish I had the box near me, because here's another guy whose name I can't can't remember. So anyways, I can't think of his name. Some of you guys, if you already know the cards, you might know him. He's the guy who also he has another deck of cards called the Occult Tarot. And I wish I knew his name. He's a guy who at one time he did an article in some small paper about this coven of witches, and I wish I remembered the guy's name. Anyways, he made some bullshit. He made some shit up just based on rumors, and then he had some of the people from the coven come to him, and he was like, "Oh shit, what they're gonna get me now?" But they basically took him and showed him. They're like, if you're gonna write about us, see what we really are and what we're doing, not just all this stupid shit you learned from the yokels over there that made stuff up. And so he became this guy's, what is his name? I wish it would say it on the first card. I got the book for it. This guy is Travis McHenry. He does a lot of tarot decks, and this guy actually, I don't know if he still is, they might have taken away from him, but he had this small town. There was a small town that he turned into a country, and somewhere in I think it's up there in what do they call it? The Arctic. There he has some small state that he was the president of this country or whatever for a while. He's a really interesting character. Okay, I'm kind of getting off on it, but the Angel Tarot by Travis McHenry, that's another one you might want. The book's pretty good. The book that comes with it is pretty good for telling you what to do with it. So I'm just kind of trying to show you a few tarot decks, and I have some tarot decks that aren't really good for what they're used for. And I'm going to say this one thing: if you're going to get something that's an actual real tarot deck. Don't get something like the D&D deck. The D&D deck is freaking cool, and it's got really cool images, but the problem is it changes the suits. Not only does it change the suits, it doesn't label it to where you know what's from the suit, and there's nothing in the suit, the cards, that even give you an idea of what the suits are. They do label the major arcana though, but they're really neat and nice cards. But unless you kind of look through the book and mark them in some way, you don't even know what the hell the card is. So some of those novelty decks, they're not as good to use because some of them will just like change the suits, but you could figure them out. But some of them, like I said, like the Dungeons and Dragons deck, it has a use where you can use it in the D&D games and stuff too, but it's really hard to use as a tarot deck because, like I said, it's not marked and it's just confusing. But okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about now, because it seems like people look at some of my longer ones and videos I do and they're like, I don't want to touch that. So I'm just going to make this short, and let me stop the capture. Well, this has been another episode of Chris Speaks. I'm your host, Chris Thompson, and just, I don't know, be magical or some shit like that. I don't know. I'll see you guys later. That was a lame